Welcome back, church family. We are going to continue our study on God's eternal purpose, his eternal plan from eternity past to eternity future. We're seeing the outworking of God's history, God's plan. And we saw last time on the flood that God judged the whole world. Apparently the humanity had sinned in such a way that God says, I'm just going to destroy it. I'm going to start all over again. And everyone will be destroyed. Every living creature will be destroyed other than those that's in the ark, which is a picture of Christ. We need to be in Christ to be safe from the judgment of God that is coming upon this world someday. Now, after the flood, when Noah gets off the ark, there's a different world than when he got on the ark. And we're going to begin seeing here today something that we call the Noahic covenant. Noahic covenant. Now, that may be a new term for you, Noahic covenant. Now let's just start by talking about what is a covenant. A covenant is a promise. It's a formal promise, normally from God to humanity. And a covenant is considered a agreement. It is a promise. It is an oath. It is a commitment. And it also involves consequences if we do not keep our part of the covenant. Okay, so he's going to make a covenant with Noah, Noahic covenant. And we've actually seen, this is actually the third covenant we've seen. We will see a few more here in the future. But the three that we've seen so far, we've seen one in Eden called the Edenic covenant. The promise that man would be able to rule and reign all things that were under his feet. Of course, that was lost at the fall. And the consequences was that God judged man by pushing him out of the garden. And now he has the knowledge of sin. He is with conscience now. And then we saw also the Adamic covenant. God makes a promise to Adam that through his seed and through the seed of his wife would come a savior of the world. We saw that in Genesis 3:15, the proto-evangelion, the first gospel, that as soon as sin was introduced, God gave a way of escape for that sin and said that there's going to come one through your seed that would bring a reverse to this curse. Okay, and now it's interesting that all through the Bible that promise is carried out, and every generation is looking for that promised one, that promised Messiah. In fact, multiple times they think maybe this is the one, maybe this is that promised child, but it narrows down. We begin to see, okay, it's coming from one person, one family, and soon it will be no mistake that it's no one other than Jesus Christ. Okay, and now we are to the Noahic covenant. God is going to make a promise to Noah. Why do you think he makes a promise to Noah? Well, what do you think man would do after the flood? Every time he saw a rain cloud in the sky, he would be scared. Oh my goodness, it's going to flood again, and it's going to rain for 40 days. It's going to flood. It's going to destroy the whole earth. We're doomed. We're going to die. They would be scared every time it rained. So God makes a promise to humanity, to Noah, that he will never judge the world again like that. Okay, he will judge the world. He will destroy the world again at the end of time, but it's going to be completely different. He makes a promise he would never send a worldwide flood. Now, that's one reason we know it's a worldwide flood, is because we see floods happen all the time. Just a few weeks ago, we saw a flood here in Texas that destroyed lives and land and damaged lots of things and it was devastating. And so we know it was not a localized flood. Okay, God did not promise that he would not allow localized floods, but he said he would never judge the world by a worldwide flood that destroys the earth. Okay, so let's look at it here in Genesis chapter 8, starting at verse 20. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took some of every clean animal and some of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled the pleasing aroma. And the Lord said in his heart, okay, let's stop right there before we get to the promise. Okay, so what happens as soon as they get off the ark? Noah is in a place of worship. He offers a sacrifice. So that goes back to God established, this is the way that you must approach me. This is the way that there must be a sacrifice. And that same thought goes all through the Old Testament until Jesus, the ultimate sacrifice. Okay, so this blood sacrifice, there's never a way to approach God without the blood. Okay, and we do that now through the blood of Jesus. So this offering, this way of worship is acceptable to God, and it pleased God. The smell of it pleased God because he knew that he smelled obedience. Okay, and this is what he says. This is the promise. When he says, I will never again curse the ground because of man. Okay, for the intention of his heart is evil from his youth. Never will I ever again strike down every living creature as I've done. Okay, as I've done. In other words, I won't judge that way. While the earth remains seed time and harvest and cold and heat and summer and winter and day and night shall not cease. Okay, so God makes a promise. I will never judge again that way. And in chapter 9, verse 13, he gives a symbol to remind us of that promise. Okay, 9:13 says, I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign, a covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth, and the bow is seen in the clouds, I will remember my covenant that is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the waters shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. When the bow is in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature and all the flesh on the earth. Okay. And verse 17, God said to Noah, this is the sign of the covenant that I have established between me and all flesh that's on the earth. Okay, so God sets a bow in the cloud, a rainbow. Okay, and that is a promise. That is a reminder. Not that God needs to be reminded, but that we need to be reminded. Now, it does say that God will remember, but it's symbolic, meaning that he'll remember and he will remind us, and he set that there as a symbol of his covenant. I will set my bow in the clouds. It's the same word that's used in archery. An archer. And I believe the ideal here is that God says, I will lay aside my instrument of judgment and I'll put it up in the clouds and I'll never use it again. And I'm setting it there as a promise to you. The question comes sometime when people see all that's going on, the question comes, and I've heard it, why doesn't God judge the world? And the answer is, he did. And it's recorded in Genesis 6-9. He did. And then the question comes, well, why doesn't he judge it again? Well, because he promised he never would again. He promised he wouldn't, not that way. And the next part of that answer is, but he will in a different way at the end of the age. He will destroy this earth at a different time and a different way. Okay, so let's look a little bit more at this covenant, this Noahic covenant, and start in verse 1 of chapter 9, because the first part of this covenant is the promise of protection. The promise of protection. Let's read, starting in verse 1. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Now, the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every bird of the heavens, upon everything that creeps on the ground, and all the fish of the sea. Into your hands they are delivered. Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. And as I give you the green plants, I give you everything. But you shall not eat the flesh with its life, that is, its blood. For you shall, for your lifeblood I will require a reckoning. From every beast I will require it, and from every man. From his fellow man I will require reckoning from the life of man. Okay, so let's stop there just for a moment. Okay, we're going to pick back up in verse 6 in just a few moments. So the first part of this Noahic covenant is a promise that of protection from the animal realm, that God is going to put an innate fear in animals of humanity. And, you see wild animals, birds or deer or even animals that can kill you. When they see you, many times they will try to get away. They will try to move, and they are scared of humanity. Now, there are animals that will kill you. that will hunt you down. They're lions, but initially they are somewhat skittish of you. And God puts that in them because there's this thing, the food chain. We're kind of, humanity is kind of the slowest of most animals. And there's many animals that can kill us and destroy us. And God says, I will put an innate fear of you in them, so that initially they are scared. Now, again, there's many animals that can still hunt you down and kill you. So I don't suggest you go out and try to test that, because if you try to play with a lion, you're probably going to be in trouble. If you try to go and tackle a bear, you're going to be in trouble. But initially, when they see you, they are skittish, and they do have a fear of you. If they attack you, it's because they are afraid of you, and they are trying to defend you, or they're very, very hungry, maybe. But we're the most defenseless, and we're the slowest. And so God says, I want to protect you by putting this little fear of you into them. But also, he says, I'm going to give you these animals as food. You can eat them. So today, if you are a vegetarian, good for you. But you cannot do that for biblical purposes. You cannot do that for theological reasons, because God says he gives us the animals to eat. He gives them to us. Now, we're not to eat them raw. We're to cook them. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have a rare steak, I don't believe. But you're just not to be a cannibal, right? And then, but here we see something unique in verse 6 and 7. And so listen here, we have a change of the age of conscience didn't work. The age of innocence didn't work. Man was sinful. Age of conscience didn't work. Man was still sinful and rebelled. And now God's going to change his his government here a little bit, his way of responding. God doesn't change. The way of salvation doesn't change. Man doesn't change, but the way that God responds to man changes just a little bit. And in verse 6, whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. For God made man in his own image. And you, be fruitful and multiply, increase greatly on the earth, and multiply in it. Okay. So conscience didn't work. Innocence didn't work. Man was still sinful. So God is going to, his administration, the way he administers and the way he rules, he is going to establish what we call human government. Okay? Human government. That no longer will you just do what is right and use your conscience and do what's right. And when you sin, no longer will I just banish you or destroy the earth, but we will establish human government. And people ask me, do you believe in the death penalty? Well, really and truly, it doesn't matter what I believe. This Bible is my standard, and God established the death penalty years ago. This is when God establishes the death penalty, that if you shed man's blood, your blood shall be shed. Okay, so yes, I do believe in capital punishment. And I believe that is something not for me to do, not something for you to do, something for the government to do. God gave that to them. Now, then he also gave a command here that they go out and be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. And really and truly, that's the only command that humanity has kept. Okay, and so it's kind of the same thing he told Adam and Eve: be fruitful, multiply. And he's going to say this multiple times in the Bible. Now let's look here down at verse 18, and we're going to see that what happens after they get off the ark. Something else happens, and we're going to follow these three, because we see that Noah has 3 sons, and we're going to follow these 3 and see what happens. And each time we've seen that even through good, godly men will come a seed, a person that is not good, that is not godly, that his heart is wicked. And if he doesn't surrender his life to God, he is going to follow the wrong path. Okay, so let's look here at it real quick. Says the sons of Noah went forth, verse 18, from the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. These 3 were the sons of Noah, and from these the people of the whole earth were dispersed. Noah began to be a man of the soil, and he planted a vineyard. He drank of the wine and became drunk, and lay uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his 2 brothers outside. Then Shem and Japheth took a garment, lay it on both their shoulders, and walked backwards, covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned backward, and they did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be to his brothers." And he also said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem. The land of Canaan will be his servant." And God enlarged Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. All the days of Noah were 950, and he died. Now we're soon going to see the amount of time that they lived decreased drastically. Okay, but here we find these three boys. As soon as they get off the ark, we see that there's a sinful thing that happens. Okay, and we're going to talk about that next week a little, or next study a little bit. Okay, but for now, hey guys, I love you. I praise you. I just want you to see these promises that God makes. He makes a promise to us as well, that if we surrender our life to Christ, we have salvation. We are his child. We are adopted into his family. I pray that you take this message that man's heart is wicked. You cannot trust man's heart. You cannot trust your own heart. You must surrender your heart to the lordship of Christ. And that must be your message to all generations. I love you guys. We'll see you next time.